So here we are. This is kind of a bonus session, we call it. It is covering the Bank Your Brain Blueprint, 8 steps for building and monetizing an in-demand professional knowledge brand. It's a little bit of a mouthful, but it'll be well worth it. So, and maybe that's why we've been talking about food all day. So I'm Gary DeHart. I'm the publisher of Insightful Accountant, host for these sessions for the Future Forward, also host of the Accounting Insiders podcast. And joining me is Gaynor Meilke Hardy. What's the right, I always get the pronunciation wrong because I read it and I'm like, no, that's wrong.
No, that's perfectly right.
All right, so Gaynor's with me. And before we dive in, I do want to cover a couple of housekeeping items. We don't have a slide for that. So this is CPE eligible. So in order to qualify for the CPE, just like any other webinar sessions that you go to, you have to be here 50 minutes. You have to answer 3. I think we have 4 poll questions total. Is that right?
Yes.
But you have to answer at least 3 of them. If you do those 2 things, we will send you an email tonight, most likely, that says, hey, complete this survey. It's just a survey, short survey about this, just giving feedback on this session. If you meet those 2 qualifications, you get the survey, complete the survey, we'll send you the certificate basically immediately. If you, for some reason, don't get that, then reach out to me. If during this session, if your polls don't work, let me know. I just need to be able to document that you were here in the event that NASBA ever calls us up and says, hey, did XYZ actually attend your event? I can't believe they would actually do that, but that's why you have to be audit proof, right? So we will put the slide deck into the chat kind of as we talk. We'll also put a link to our YouTube page in the chat, which is where the recording of this event will be posted, as well as all the events that we're doing here with Future Forward, and all of our podcasts and all of our webinars are all sitting in the YouTube channel, but we'll provide the link for that. That will also be sent to you via email as a follow-up to this event. So I think that's the key housekeeping item. So Gaynor, tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself, and then maybe just roll into the Bank Your Brain Blueprint. What's that all about?
Yeah, well, I'm Gaynor Meilke, and I'm Chief Marketing Officer here at Insightful Accountant. And then I also work throughout the accounting channel with a lot of accounting professionals and then technology vendors. And I've really, Gary was just talking about the Insightful Accountant YouTube channel, and that's really just a big bank of professional knowledge that is so valuable. And I know that every one of you who's here today has something in their brain that they could probably monetize. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. I just kind of put together a little guidebook for people who are professional service providers like accountants. And you can use it to actually do a step-by-step plan and strategy to basically monetize what you already know. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And Insightful Accountant has been doing this for years and has now kind of made it official that they can certainly help a lot of accounting professionals make bank with their brain. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and really understand what the opportunities are available in the profession, and then help you evaluate your own purpose and the path that you might want to use to leverage your skills. And some of this is paid, some of it's not. But I think you've probably all seen in the accounting profession that there's a lot of people talking about a lot of different technology and best practices, and they're getting sponsored or they're on panels, and you might be thinking, that looks really interesting to me. Maybe I'd like to do a little bit of that. And that's basically a lot of what we do here at Insightful Accountant, and then we work with different technology vendors as well. So we're going to talk about both the, the commercial side of it and then your personal side, because for some people, this is really a passion. And then for other people, they really want to make a business out of it. And so, we'll kind of differentiate between the two and give you a plan as well. So it's kind of the first sort of of 8 steps that are in the book and really are part of the planning process is to treat this like any other marketing project. So in terms of a business venture, banking your brain is all about knowing where you want to go and having something of value. And, we said right off the top, you've already got a lot that's in your brain that you can utilize, but you need to really have a vision for how you want to use it. And I say that because you can spend a lot of time, creating content that really doesn't get a lot of traction. And if you enjoy doing that, that's awesome. And, you'll probably get, a few views on YouTube, or, maybe get a, speaking engagement or two. But for a lot of busy professionals, like, you don't want to be spending time just making content for the sake of it. So it's really about thinking about how you want to spend your time to get the most value, both for you and for your audience as well. So we're going to talk a lot today about the methodology, but also the measurement of, not only measurement in terms of what value you're bringing, but also from an ROI perspective as well. So I am going to pass it back over to Gary for a minute, because Insightful Accountant actually has a program that can help you put more of a structure around this if you're interested in really dedicating some time to it. So Gary, do you want to talk a little bit about Impact Alliance?
Sure. I'm gonna touch base real quick. Can you go back one?
Yeah, for sure.
And PKB. One more time. It's the professional knowledge
brand.
Professional or personal?
Professional.
Professional, right? Okay. And I did read the book. I read through the book twice, actually, and I thought professional. So so in a nutshell, explain what that is.
Basically, instead of thinking about what you're doing on a daily basis as just par for the course, I'm a CPA or I'm an accounting professional, and I know, all of these things, it's really starting to think about, what is it that I'm really good at, that I'm passionate about, and that could help other people, and creating an actual brand around that, so that you're focused on teaching and educating, but in a way that, also builds you a personal and professional brand, so that you become known for something within the profession and with your clients as well.
And I think, a couple of people, 3 people specifically that come to mind immediately. Dawn Brolin, right? She certainly is out doing that, and you work with her. Liz Scott has spent the past several years doing this, and Heather Satterley, same thing, has spent several years doing this. Hector Garcia, right? Probably one of the first people really to kind of go, yeah, I'm an accountant, but actually I really like doing this. And Michelle Long certainly did that. She actually probably was maybe the pioneer of building out that professional knowledge brand. So,
and I think too, that's a good point that you've just brought up, Gary, is that these people that, are kind of very visible in the profession have been doing it for a long time. So they didn't just start yesterday and become, known quantities. They were purposeful about it and put the investment into it.
Right. Yeah. And I think investment's the key word, right? Because it is an investment of time. It's an investment of money. It's a lot of effort to get there. And you talk about that in your book. So Impact Alliance, how we ended up with Impact Alliance was Gaynor came on board about, has it been 2 years?
Yeah.
2 years in August, or in December, maybe.
Yeah.
So right at it. So, hey, happy anniversary. And so she came on board with us as the CMO, but as she and my business partner, Bob Allard, are out and about, obviously, businesses want to grow and are looking for opportunities. We see that there are a lot of people who certainly have the skill sets to be able to take this approach to their business. And, but a lot of people who aren't necessarily wired to think of the process, right? Or think about, how do I become, we're going to pick on Dawn Brolin the entire time because everybody loves Dawn. So how do I become Dawn Brolin? And, again, that doesn't happen overnight either. So, and I'm sure you know this, she's like in a movie. Did you have you seen
Oh,
it?
totally. It's amazing. So, she really has a unique combination of both, an amazing skill set as a CPA and a fraud examiner, but then she really does have kind of that persona that enjoys, being, I don't want to call it a star, but, enjoys engaging with people. And she can
Right.
also, help people learn at the same time, which is a unique quality for sure.
Right. And so with Impact Alliance, again, what we want to do is be, part of this, being part of the market. We want to provide a solution to help people build out their. We didn't have the PKB at the time, but using the kind of structure that Gaynor has built out, we want to work with people at different levels. So we have kind of a free level that gets you X. We have a lower paid level that gets you X and Y, and then the big kahuna that gets you X, Y, and Z. And we'll send more information out about that later. But it's about building that brand, connecting you. We want to help you build the brand, train you to do that, connect you with the vendors who ultimately are going to be the ones paying you for your knowledge, and help connect you with that, and then also help you have build out a package basically that you can then kind of a portfolio, if you will, that you could then present to the market, and we can certainly help you make those connections as well. So I think, do we have slides that show kind of each one of those levels?
Yeah.
So content creator, thought leader, and influencer, and this is listed here as top 100. So it's basically, if you are in the top 100, or if I think we have it written as, if you have an application in for the top 100, you actually get the first level for free. And so in that, there's a couple of things that get you. It's going to be a monthly webinar training program. There we go. Sorry, that's got my video box here in the middle of my screen. So there's the things you get. And we don't really want this whole session to be about what Impact Alliance is. This is more of a kind of get at a level of awareness about what Impact Alliance is. So when you do see it, you'll go, oh yeah, I remember them talking about that. So basically 3 tiers. 1 tier is some basic training. 2nd tier is a little more hands-on. 3rd tier is really us working very closely. And when I say us, it's really primarily Gaynor, working very closely with you to build out this brand and get you placed, if you will, partnered up with various vendors within the profession. So I think that's a good high enough overview of what we're doing. So let's talk a little bit more about bank your brain.
Sure.
So yes, I'm ready. How do I bank my brain?
Right.
Buy the book. I guess you got to buy the book first.
No, you don't have to buy the book. I'm going to
All
tell
right.
you all about it today. And I think that's, I just want to kind of call attention to, we're going to be talking a lot about sponsors and how you can get that. But at the very core of banking your brain has to be a desire to help people, because you're not going to be able to come up with something that really resonates with an audience if all you're thinking about is the money on the other side of it. And that's kind of the same with any kind of marketing, because a product has to solve a problem in order for it to be successful. And I think if you take nothing else away from this session, think about, what do I know that could solve somebody else's problem? And it could be a very small problem, like, I don't know how to, integrate X, Y, and Z apps into QuickBooks, and you found like some amazing shortcut to, I flipped the switch from tax to advisory in my practice, and I did it in these, steps. And I think we'll talk a lot about how to package it tomorrow, because we've broken down what's 8 steps, which we'll go through in a minute, into kind of 4 and 4 for these webinars to make it a little easier to understand.
Yeah, and you mentioned sponsors, and I did this on the last session. I even told you, I was like, hey, remind me to say thanks to our sponsors, and we both forgot. So I'm going to break in here. So thanks to our sponsors for the Future Forward Summit here, which were Tech Guru and Swissnet and Davo by Avalara. So sorry about being delayed there, but right in the heart of the order here. So maybe that actually works out better. So Tech Guru, Davo by Avalara, and Swissnet, thank you for your support. So
yes, definitely. And all companies that use accounting professionals to help them reach more accounting professionals. And I also want to just kind of take a little bit of an aside and say that this blueprint really works whether you want to talk peer to peer within the industry, or if you want to use it just to grow your own practice with your clients. Because I actually have worked with a couple of CPA firms who have created training programs for their clients, and they've actually monetized them as well. So they have like a special like financial training system that their clients actually buy as a membership, and they also open it up to the public. So, there's really no limit. You can be creative with it, but as I said, you need to have something that you're able to connect with the market of value. So something that people will pay for
yeah.
as well.
And one other thing I want to throw on just kind of on the heels of that is, a couple of minutes ago we were talking, it sounded getting a little sales pitchy, which is why I wanted to kind of shy away from that. But I want people to kind of be thinking about, look, even if you don't, buy Gaynor's book, and it's not going to be expensive.
Don't.
Yeah, even if you don't, have any interest in Impact Alliance, and again, the first level is free. But think about what the information that we're sharing and how you can leverage it for your business. Again, it may not even be to monetize it. It may be you've got this data, all this information in your head, and how can you take that information and tweak your business model maybe a little bit, or maybe add a whole training wing, or instead of maybe you love doing books, that's great, you're an accountant, so that would make sense. But how can you bank your brain? Again, we're going to reference back to that. So again, it's not about trying to sell you something, it's about trying to get you to think outside the box. I don't want to be too
Yeah. And that's why I said this is not a sales pitch for the book either. So, really I created the book because I had a lot of people ask me about it, and I love to write and I like to help people. So, it was kind of just within me. And if you feel something like that within like your own brain that just you'd like to help people with, there's different levels of this, which is what we'll talk about in just a minute. And it's really some people think about, I know Gary mentioned off the top, like the Don Brolin and the Liz Scott and Heather Satterley, and they have happy hour. And when you go to conferences, there's, people who are, doing a lot of speaking and, those sorts of things. But there's not, this could even just be, being an educator in the profession. We do a lot of webinars on Insightful Accountant and for Tax Practice News. And maybe that's what you're interested in doing. So that's one level, which I call the educator. The next is a thought leader, where maybe you want to be a contributor, on a regular basis, or have a podcast about particular topics. And then the influencer is when we start getting more into what you might think about at a higher level. And we're starting to see accountants not only on podcasts, but TikTok, and a lot of like strong social followings. And it's really interesting to see what people are doing. It's also really interesting to see what the results are. And I think that's something also to keep in mind, because it's really easy to get excited about all the ideas, and I could be on YouTube, and I know Gary knows this just from doing the podcast. It's actually a lot of work. And so if you're doing it week in and week out, and you're really not, seeing a lot of traction or getting, paid or getting a lot of interest in your services because of it, as long as you enjoy it and you have the time to do it and you don't mind, that's great. But, just be aware of that, it's not something that you just go into and you're suddenly going to make a lot of money doing it. And then the kind of the upper level, which would be somebody like a Don Brolin, or if you want to take it out of the accounting profession and think about like Tony Robbins or something like that, people who are like well known and are spending the majority of their kind of business time doing something like that. So if that's something that you aspire to, I think today's session is going to be really helpful, because it's all about having a plan. Those people don't end up, accomplishing what they're accomplishing without intention as well. So our first polling question here, what type of professional knowledge brand would you be interested in building? Would it be more around education or thought leadership? Do you want to be an influencer, or are you really interested in making a complete shift away maybe from your practice and into being more of the Golden Guide model?
I think here we go. Yeah, it had a little different, it was named a little differently on the actual poll here. So sorry about that.
Okay. All right. We're anticipating that there's a lot of people who are already doing it with this poll question.
Yeah, and even kind of you were talking about like YouTube and podcasts and video and things like that. I think also it certainly helps with your presentation skills, right? And as you out looking for clients or talking to clients, you certainly get a lot more comfortable the more you do this. And then you have a file of content that you can push back to and turn it from video into audio or into the written word for your website and things like that. There's a lot of ways to leverage this.
And we'll talk about that as well in
Yeah.
a minute.
All right, we're going to wrap this up. And again, if you want the CPE, you got to answer the poll. So give you about 3 more seconds and we are going to close that out. I will share the results.
All right. Educator. So there are a lot. And so today's session, if you're interested in sort of taking it to the next level, certainly can be helpful as well. Awesome.
So we do have a question here while we're at this spot.
Sure.
Somebody said, please say a little bit more about that Golden Guide.
Okay. So what I think about when I say Golden Guide is really somebody who has a really strong professional knowledge brand, has invested in it, is known for maybe 1, 2, 3 areas of focus within their profession, and are able to kind of create deals with sponsors as well. And we'll talk about what sponsors are looking for in a minute, but essentially it's somebody who is devoting quite a bit of time to this effort and sees it as a real business and not just something that they kind of dabble in when somebody asks them to as well. So, I mean, I will say that the accounting profession can be quite lucrative just because there's so many tech vendors and they have the money to spend and they want to use influencers because they know it's more effective than just them talking about their solution as well.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point on the Impact Alliance side. It's not necessarily even spending money, right? It's investing to be able to get connected with that vendor community and actually make money. So
right, as well. And they get to know who you are. And if you can deliver, and again, that's key, if you can deliver both an audience and conversions, that is what makes a Golden Guide, because again, they're not just paying you because they think that what you have to say sounds good. It's because they get, a business bump out of it. So again, something to think about. So really everything that we've already talked about here boils down to 3 things that I think make up the professional knowledge brand. One is some kind of unique insight, your individuality. So everybody's got a gift, everybody's got a different personality, and then what impact can you make in the market as well. And again, I want to think today's conversation is a business conversation because it's all about what you can deliver to the market and sell and monetize, not so much what you just want to talk about as well, which is fine. You can be an educator doing that, but you're not going to make a lot of money as well. So in order to do that, to monetize your mind, really need to know what makes your audience tick. What problems do they have that you can solve? And by what means can you educate them and transform them with your knowledge? And that's really the 3 things in every product that's successful, every brand that's successful. You have to be able to connect to something that your audience is missing as well. So would you say, and we had a lot of educators here today, would you say that you already have a professional knowledge brand, or you're kind of working on it, or maybe you don't at all? Do you think you're somewhat known in the profession?
Question's a little different. So the question that we had here is, do you currently share your professional knowledge in the accounting profession? Similar, but a little different. So that's why it's again, taking me a minute to make sure I pull the
There
right
we go.
poll. So
We'll
sorry
have to
about that.
double check all of our questions.
So, and I think too, like, no, never mind. All right, so we'll leave this open for a couple more seconds. If you, again, if you need CPE, you have to participate. Give you about 3 more seconds and then we'll wrap it up and share the poll. Here we go. No, but I'm interested in doing so. 52%. So you came to the right place. Then the balance of you, it's good to see. So we've got some out there a little bit, some who do a lot, and then a bigger group that doesn't, but could be interested in it. And I think there's a lot of, we all, again, bank on your brain, we all have something, right, that we can bring to the table. And it may be one small niche, it may be a full on, you're the best workflow person in the space and nobody's better. So I like this conversation because it makes you start thinking, right? Especially if it's, hey, I'm interested, but I don't know how to go about it. You're in the right spot. So
awesome. There we go. So just what Gary said, this kind of work can be really interesting. And as you develop personal knowledge or a professional knowledge brand as a subject matter expert, thought leader, and professional influencer, you need to develop a strategy, not only around how you're going to reach the market, but also your intellectual property. And I think that's something else to think about after today's session is, don't just think about, oh, I could educate on workflow. It's like, well, do you have a system by which you do that? And you probably do without even knowing it. And how can you map out that system and make it into a product? And then obviously, once you kind of hone that a little bit, it does become like a product. And a good example, again, we'll go, I guess, back to Dawn Brolin. She has the starting lineup, which is her kind of whole technology stack that that is intellectual property, because she has a special way that she kind of leverages everything. She's an efficiency expert, and so those are all kind of the hallmarks of her professional brand. But it doesn't have to be something as robust as that. It could be, I know Sean Duncan is right now working on his Chief Proactive Advisor program, which is specifically about transitioning from tax compliance to like advisory, and he's got a 6-step process. So just think about what it is that you have that you do over and over again that maybe other people are asking you about. And remember, it can also be something that your clients are always asking you, or your colleagues. And that's really where I think success starts, because success leaves clues. So think about what it is that you're always called upon that you're really good at as well. So we're going to talk about some of these kind of unique nuances that can make or break the success of a professional knowledge brand, or even if you're trying to do this just to grow your firm as well. I think one of the things is that while all of this can be rewarding, I think we get a lot of people with even Future Forward who enjoy speaking and being part of a panel. But it's also a lot of work. And so it's difficult to kind of keep the momentum going as well. And that's what having a plan really is all about. And I just wanted to ask Gary, because he does a lot on the editorial side. Do you find that you're getting more requests from people to kind of get involved in providing content?
We get more from people outside of the industry, and usually it's tied to somebody wanting to sell something. What we do find is if we proactively reach out to people, most people are willing to answer questions, but not necessarily write an article. And makes sense, right? It's not necessarily my skill set to sit down and come up with an idea, come up with the flow, and come up with a full article. But if we can provide an outline or 5 questions to answer, we can get a lot more engagement that way. And then there's the reality of it. People who do come up to, scaling new heights. We had, multiple conversations with people. Hey, we'd love to write. I'd love to write for you. Great. We'd love for you to write for us. And then crickets, right? And you reach out to them. Hey, let's hop on the phone and talk about whatever it was. Crickets. And I get it, because if you don't write on a regular basis, it's not easy. And you may be the best accountant, bookkeeper, tax professional out there, but if you can't, if you don't have somebody to help you put that into words and condense it down to where it's not like an IRS manual, then it's very difficult, and it can be foreboding. And that's probably more what we run into. Like Esther Freeberg-Cart writes for us, and we have a call every couple of weeks where we're saying, hey, kicking around ideas about what to write about. And then once we kind of settle on what she's going to write about, then she bounces her ideas off of Mike Pellerino, who is our managing editor. Then they kind of condense it down and bring it to something that we can put to the site. So that's a very long answer to your question. The short answer was most of what we get inbound is from outside the profession.
Interesting. Okay. So obviously that second point is really relevant here. Is what is your personal motive for wanting to create a professional knowledge brand? So, whether that's just to do some speaking, to do some content development, some course creation that you can monetize, consulting, or all of the above. And so that's our next poll question.
Yeah, and actually after this poll question, I'll let's see, what's this one? How do you want to? Oh, look at that one. I think it's the exact same wording.
Is it the exact same? Awesome. They did a good job with those then.
Monetize your professional knowledge. Yes, it is. There we go.
Yep. All right.
Oh, that's interesting. I can see it like,
Oh, there you go. What's lighting up? Speaking.
Well, I don't want to influence anybody's response.
You don't want to be an influencer,
right? I don't want to be an influencer on this. It's interesting though. So, all right, let's wrap this up in about 3 or 4 more seconds. So if you need the CPE, you need to participate. All right, I'm gonna close it out. I'll share the results. Nobody wants to speak. So a lot of people want to consult. A lot of people want to do a combination of all of the above: content development and course creation. So actually, I'm glad I waited. So areas where we, Insightful Accountant, reach out into the profession and need help. And we're not the only publication, if you want to call us a publication or a website, or we're not the only media serving this space. But we have some paid, organic paid writing opportunities. We have sponsored paid writing opportunities. We have sponsored paid presentation opportunities, like webinars for sponsors, and then a combination of all of those things. So, and that's just us. And out of the market, there's a lot of places you can go and take your knowledge to share, to learn, to grow, to build that professional brand.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, stop sharing.
Interesting. And I would say that there are opportunities, to do consulting with technology vendors, and then also obviously with your clients and getting to that higher advisory level as well.
Certainly.
Definitely. All right. I'm gonna go back here. So, I want to get to our kind of 4 steps today, but there's people who want to utilize this bank your brain concept to really build out something that has an impact on the profession. And then there's other people who want the short term, like it's really all about banking their brain. And so we're going to talk about how we can get there as well. So, what do you know that is worth paying for? And that's what is worth paying for through the eyes of your intended audience. So, you know, as we go through, there's really 8 elements that I wrote down that I've seen consistently work with, either people that I work with or just in the profession. It's they have a really clear purpose to what they're doing. They know that they want to make money with it. And so they position themselves, favorably with either technology vendors, their clients, their peers, and they have a very clear point of view about, one or two things. They're not trying to be all things to all people. They know kind of what their wheelhouse is and what part of their wheelhouse other people want to engage with. And then the intensity, it's, again, we talked about this off the top, is you could do, a little bit of speaking. It doesn't sound like anybody here wants to do speaking. Everybody wants to do, consulting and share their knowledge that way. But as we've talked about, in order to get traction and kind of be seen at that level of being a thought leader, or that golden guide influencer, you have to be consistent with it. And even Gary's experience with people writing, it's, you don't just get consulting gigs with technology vendors like on your first day because they need to get to know you and understand the value that you provide. And that's where you being able to build that intellectual capital inventory, so to speak, of things that you've done, other engagements, speaking, and, even though you may not like it, going to an event like Scaling New Heights or doing one of these virtual conferences, again, it kind of builds that bank that you can show to somebody who might potentially pay you. Oh yeah, you really do know what you're talking about. You've got your message packaged in a way that it's easily understandable and really a product that they can attach their name to. Because I think that's really important as well. I mean, I've spent a long time myself trying to hone like what are all of these like steps and the ideas into finally this book that actually doesn't, it's 150 pages, but it's taken me a long time to refine it to the point where I can say, here, this is like a package that you can actually understand and walk through. So start thinking about what you know in that way so that you can streamline things, and it makes it easy for people to understand how they could, put a brand on it themselves.
And
And
just, I'm going to jump in. There was it's not a question, it's more of a statement, but that Diane put in, and she said, it's not that I don't want to speak, it's more that I haven't ever known where to go or where to get my foot in the door or how to go about doing that. And so, which is spot on with what you're talking about right now. And I think just while you have this on the screen, and Diane, I think it's just what Gaynor said right here, the purpose, the intensity, the purpose of it, why am I doing it? The intensity, how frequently am I doing it? How much am I willing to, how much of my time am I willing to invest? How much of my money am I willing to invest? And what can I bring to the table? And then build out that strategy to do it. And one thing also about shows you had mentioned, in many cases, if you're speaking at a show, I can't speak for the shows, but I think in most cases, if you're speaking at a show, they're going to cover some of your costs, if not all of your costs to go there. It may just be free entry to the event, or if you're speaking a lot, they may give you a free hotel room or flights. So that's another thing to consider just as part of your overall training budget, right? So you get that, because that really would be training if you're going to a Scaling New Heights or QB Connect or some of these other events. You can get somebody else to pay your way there and pay you to speak. That's a win.
And I would also say you have to, again, plan for it, because I know Scaling New Heights started accepting speaker applications in like August. And then Accountex Australia, that closes October 7th. And there's a number of shows. And so you need to do some research around, oh, I'd be interested in going here. And then it's as simple as an online form. But again, you need to have, if anybody's ever done a webinar, you always have to have a description, learning objectives. The polling questions are for CPE. You need to be able to have something like that so that it fits the model of wherever you're speaking. And so again, it's just it really comes down to what can I share, how do I package it, and where do I put it as well. So that's falls in exactly with number 5. What are the sales channels for delivering your professional knowledge brand? How are you going to produce your intellectual products? So whether that product is a speech, a webinar, a book, any number of things, a podcast, these things don't just occur organically. You have to actually have a plan and execute them. And sometimes that costs money as well. So you have to think about that. And then delivery of these things, you need to be able to find those opportunities to engage with your audience and then refine it based on, does it resonate and does it create revenue as well? So today we're kind of going to breeze through our first 4. We've talked quite a bit about number 1, but having the purpose and the intensity as well. And you simply want to share and help people, create credibility, supplement your income, find a new position for your firm in a niche, or to create a future career path for you as well. How much time are you going to put into it? We've talked about that as well. And I also want to just stop here for a second and say it's not always about creating something new. I bet you've got years of things that you've created, templates in your firm, systems that you use to get your work done, things that you've presented to clients, proposals, maybe you've done a little bit of speaking. I mean, to be honest, my book, the genesis for it was a 4-hour course that I did on CPA crossing. And I basically took that framework and wrote the book around it. So again, it's like when you're creating these assets, think about, have a bigger vision than just I'm doing a one-off webinar. It's like, well, how does this fit into my whole plan for delivering my professional knowledge brand? How am I going to use it later as well? But always also thinking about what is the problem that I'm solving? Something, it's better to be known for one thing as the expert in the industry or profession than to kind of have this mishmash of, well, I kind of do workflow and, I'm good at accounting, right? It's like, no, I'm the best fraud accountant that there is in the country. And, I own that as well. So another thought is just, how are you going to actually leverage your intellectual capital in the market? So, you can do consulting. It's kind of, I wouldn't say it's difficult to do a one-to-many approach. Obviously, you could do some kind of coaching program, but if you're talking about true consulting, with technology vendors, that tends to be a one-to-one, unless you have some kind of mastermind or round table where you can get everybody involved. So that's something to think about. Are you just going to do some content creation? Are you going to create courses that could add another stream of revenue? And those could be on-demand courses. But again, just remember, as I've seen a lot of people start creating courses and then it's like, wow, this is just a ton of work and they don't finish it. So it's better to start with even, 3 short courses and maybe go to, Insightful Accountant and say, I want to do a 3 webinar series and see if there's traction for that. And then, once you see that your audience is actually engaging with it and you get, a good audience number, that you're on the right track, because oftentimes what you think is going to resonate with the audience may not. And it just takes time to refine that. And I think Gary and I both know this from Future Forward, because we spend a lot of time thinking about what is it that people are going to register for, because we want to provide value. And we're trying to read you as our audience as well and provide you with something of value. Right, Gary?
Absolutely. That's the key, right? That's the holy grail.
Yeah.
You
And
can get
so,
those two lined up, right?
yeah. And I think one of the things that we always look at as well is what questions are people asking? Because in the Q&A, that is gold right there, because what people want to know, what you're kind of leaving out is, another market need that you can fill. So if you're doing any kind of webinars or people are asking questions when you're presenting things, think of those as opportunities to build something else out as well. So those are really, kind of the first 4 elements of the 8-step process in the Bank Your Brain blueprint. And we kind of went at a high level. If you join Impact Alliance, we'll be doing kind of a deep dive series of webinars as part of that first level. And so, of course, we'd encourage you to think about being a top 100 pro advisor this year as well. That nomination, when does that open, Gary?
We're shooting for November the 15th.
Mm-hmm.
And so just clarifying that. So actually before we dive, well, since we're talking about that, so November 15th, we'll have nominations, and then probably somewhere the first part of January, we haven't finalized everything. We'll narrow it down, basically kind of weed out those who aren't qualified. Main qualification is not, got to be a pro advisor. And then the application process. So for the Impact Alliance, it's, you just have to have an application for the top 100. Doesn't mean you have to be in the top 100. Yep. You have to be an applicant for the top 100, and you're, in for that free level. So Susan asked a question. She's one of our top 100, actually one of our previous award winners as well. So it's a longer, actually, it's more of a statement. So I'm going to read it, and then I've got a response. I'd like to hear what you have to say too, Gaynor. So she says, I feel confident that I have valuable intellectual property and am willing to share, but I'm a perfectionist and hold back from putting anything permanent out there. I think it may not apply to everyone, and someone may be misled if it's misunderstood or taken out of context. Mm-hmm. All my consulting is customized to the client's specific needs. So I find it hard to consider what generic information would be safe to share. So I think Susan, where we're going with this is you're thinking customer focus, like your current, your accounting client focus. This is probably more appropriate for your accounting peer focus. And maybe it's broader than that, but like if consulting is your jam, right? That's what you do. That's how I'm super at consulting. I've got my 10-step process for consulting. And so that 10-step process could be what you turn into your PKB, right? To your professional knowledge. Sorry, what's the B? I say base, but it's not.
Knowledge brand.
Brand. Yes. Your PKB could be that, you're just the best consultant out there. And so you're not sharing, legal information, or you're not sharing information that's really going to change when a software solution changes. What you could be teaching people is, here's my methodology for consulting with clients. They have to, again, whatever it may be 10 steps, and it's more about sharing that knowledge within the profession. So that's one. But then the two, you might have a particular knowledge about workflow or practice management solutions. And then that ties in with what Gaynor was talking about with pairing up with the vendor side of the market, because the vendors want to talk to people like you. They want people like you to get into their software and to break it and show them all the problems that there are with it or could be with it before they go live with it. So that's two ways to kind of leverage your brand again. So maybe think broader. It's not necessarily about dealing with the customers that you have currently. It's potentially about finding a whole other base of customers who aren't even accounting clients. They're clients who are accountants.
And I would also say, just to the first part of that, about kind of the fear factor, and it's, it does take a little bit, progress comes first and then perfection, and nothing's ever going to be perfect. But if you wait until it's perfect, you're never going to do it. And so as long as you were saying, you don't want to mislead people, I think that's where you can leave things very like high level, like what Gary was saying, and just say it's almost like a lead generator for your more detailed consulting, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, I talk at this high level do a webinar maybe, or you write some articles, and you're not giving away all of the nitty gritty details. And then you'll get people who are interested, and it's like a little lead magnet. They come and they say, tell me more about that. And then that's a way that you can bring them into your consulting model. So, tomorrow we're going to talk more about really the nuts and bolts of, okay, now we've figured out what our purpose is, what intensity we're going to work at, what we want to package, what are the nitty gritty pieces and parts that we can put together to lead people through our sales funnel. And this, again, this may all be kind of new language when you're thinking about your intellectual capital and making it into a product, but it's the way it works if you do want to try and sell it as well. So I know we're kind of close at time, and we want to get the last CPE question in here.
Yeah.
And I want to know if people are interested in joining Impact Alliance too.
Yep, here we go. And we're not a high pressure sales. If anybody, I think most of you people know us at one point or another. We're not high pressure, so we're not going to be beating on your door going, why aren't you doing this? You came to my free webinar, you need to join. No, it's not about that at all. So the one other question that did pop in and was trying to find your book. Where is it available yet?
It's not on Amazon yet, but it should be by the end of the week. So
Right.
I definitely will also, I think, give people a digital copy who came to the webinar. So
okay, great. Yeah. And so I'm going to try to proof it again one more time. Proof it one more time.
Please do.
Right.
Gary's
Always
like the
proof
most
it.
awesome proofreader.
So yes, and Diane, please come see me. I'll be at QB Connect. That's the next event I'm going to. Well, yeah, that's the next one I'm going to. Come find me, we'll be walking around.
Yeah, if anybody's going to Women Who Count in Chicago, I'll be there. So we can chat as well. All
right, well, great. For all of those of you who did say yes, you'd be interested, or maybe we'll get some information to you. And like I said, we're not high pressure sales. We don't. This is how high pressure we are. We don't even have the good grief. I've been doing this all day. My brain is. You can't buy anything right now is what I'm trying to say. So it's not even possible at this point. But go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, I think that's Insightful Accountant. We really are here to try and help you. And, I think the top 100 is a great, it's really an influencer program to a certain extent, because, we've got so many knowledgeable people, and that's just, you are also gifted that it's a gold mine in and of itself. So start thinking about yourself that way. You've got a lot to share.
There's gold in that our brain, right?
So everyone has it. So
yeah.
I know we're kind of at time, and we're happy to stay on for a few minutes and answer questions. And we hope that you'll come back and join the session tomorrow. It will be a completely different session. We're not just repackaging this one. There's the next 4 steps. So hope to see you then.
Yeah, and so we do want to say thank you to our sponsors, Tech Guru, Swissnet, and Davo by Avalara. And in closing, James, he sent this a long time ago, but it was on topic very early. He pointed out that today is National Taco Day.
Oh, I know that. So
Taco Tuesday. But that wasn't your favorite meal. So I don't know. So I personally am going to see if my wife will go get some tacos for dinner. So
and I just want to
not that I'm sending her to go get tacos, if we can go get tacos together. So
I'm all about business, Gary. I'm still trying to.
You're killing me here.
If anybody would like to have a speaking opportunity, you can touch base with myself or Gary about Future Forward. And we're still putting together the agenda for November, December, and we have other speaking opportunities, content opportunities as well. So always open and ready to help.
Great. Linda, I see you raised your hand. If you're interested, shoot us a note and we'll reach out to you. And let me put my email down in the chat. Where'd it go? Chat.
And of course, tune in to the Accounting Insiders podcast. I did just listen to the latest episode with Cashflow Mike, and it's pretty awesome. He's a great example of a thought leader, He wrote 2 books during COVID, and it's all about, based on his experience. So, everybody's got those experiences and other people can learn from them, and you can build a brand around them.
Fantastic. All right. Well, great. Thank you, everybody. Gaynor, thank you so much for taking the hours and hours to write that book. It really is a great, again, having gone through it twice now, it's a phenomenal outline for this process, and look forward to seeing where that goes. And we do appreciate it. We'll see you. Hopefully we'll see everybody tomorrow.
Yep, for sure. Take care, everyone.
Great. Thanks a lot. All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.